Hello friends, and welcome to Maybe Text Jimmy Episode 2. Again, this is just us trying to get caught up, putting our older content onto YouTube. Our first new episode should be up Thursday evening. This is Star Wars Day, may the 4th be with you. And again, thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We really do appreciate anyone who even takes the time to watch or listen to our videos. And if especially if you were to leave a comment, likes are always nice, but really comments are what I'm more focused on, because it helps us grow, it helps us be better. We want this to be a very viewer-driven podcast, and we want to talk about what you want us to talk about and sort of, address your feelings and concerns. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to us, and here is Maybe Text Jimmy Episode 2.
Welcome everyone to Maybe Text Jimmy. Today we cover Season 3, Episode 2. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Cody.
And the episode we are covering today, called Witness. Again, just like last week, I don't think there's too much hidden meaning here. Chuck has his witnesses by the end. We were directed this week by Vince Gilligan again. I guess he did back-to-back. And it was written by Thomas Schnauz, whose credits are mainly on Vince Gilligan projects. He's mainly written a couple of X-Files, Lone Gunman, Breaking Bad episodes. Yep, so it looks like he's pretty much been under Gilligan this whole time. But he directed a fine episode here, I'd say.
I absolutely agree. And, lots of subtle, not so subtle product placements. I really, really want to go to Cracker Barrel right now.
Yes, Cracker Barrel. Old people placements, yes. To try and get the old people on their side, you gotta talk about the Cracker Barrel, the rocking chairs, the carbs. Alright, you got any other lead-in notes, or should we get into the recap?
No, that's, we'll end up discussing everything along the way, so let's not mince words.
We said save it to tell the cast all evening, so here we go. Scene 1. Chuck checks the perimeter of his home at night before telling we later learn is a private investigator, that he's going to bed, and has the investigator kill the lights. But Chuck eventually looks out of his bedroom window one last time. He can't tear himself away from whatever the heck he's doing right before the theme music.
I honestly thought for a moment, because we had talked about previously what it is exactly that Chuck is planning, and so you sit there and you just watch Chuck kind of meander through the house, and then there's that scene where you look in his mirror, and you can see it's like some movement and motion off to the right, and like, oh man, wow, that's Jimmy is actually going to break into Chuck's home and try and steal this tape. Like somehow off screen he's been notified of it, and then. Next thing you know is there's the lead-in where it's Chuck is again moving through the house. He's like checking all the windows and whatnot, and you see again in a mirror this guy just sitting alone at a table.
Yeah, and wait, this was just some guy. Chuck wasn't like, "Oh, hey, you're the investigator still here. Whoops, I forgot."
Yeah,
it was just a dude playing solitaire.
I thought that it was like Chuck had no idea that he was there, and so it's like, "Oh, what's going to go on here?"
Nacho send somebody to Chuck's house? What?
And then it's like, you might move the 5 of hearts up. Like, what?
Yeah,
and then it takes a couple of seconds.
Cool little, probably meaningless dialogue scene to just establish that they know each other and like nothing weird going on here. Chuck's not being intimidated or anything.
No, there was plenty of weird going on there, but
he seems positively giddy. It's like, ooh, it's like Christmas morning. I can't wear Santa Claus. Peeking out the window again. He's trying to go to bed. But it's just kind of a tease for the rest of the episode.
Honestly, so just so you all are aware of sort of our process going into this, or at least however I approach it, I usually can't watch the show right whenever it airs, so I have to get caught up, and because I'd like to do at least 2 watches, and so I went to watch it on Tuesday, And unfortunately, AMC, in all of its infinite wisdom, decided to not put the episode up to watch for free online.
Oh,
so,
no, they just wanted to hook you with the premiere.
Exactly. And so it's like, oh, curse you! I'm going to shake my fist at you. And achieve absolutely nothing. But so I had to rely on the goodwill of a friend who has Parent as a Dish account, and he could not get that. So basically, I had to watch this episode today, and I don't like to just go through and do one because you don't feel like you quite get everything. And so I ended up having to watch this episode 2 times today. And if there was an episode that I was going to have to watch 2 times in a row, this would have been it. Everything about this was just amazing.
He said on episode 2
the season. I would say because there's 10 episodes in every season, so we are currently sitting at 22 episodes. This is my favorite of the 22 episodes. It is so good.
Whoa.
Everything about it just really, I don't know.
Bold statement.
Well, it's because if you look at it, the pace has been relatively slow, and you, like the amount of development you'll get, it would have gotten in this episode. This episode alone would have taken 2-3 episodes in previous seasons, and here we're getting this all at once, and eventually culminating in a really explosive, emotional, gripping final scene. Absolutely, this is such a good episode.
Fair point. The final scene was definitely the powder keg we've been wanting to blow. Now we just need to see the next one. Alright, moving on. Scene 2. We see 2 men in a car waiting for the man in the truck that eventually pulls up behind them. Or I think it's a truck or like a Jeep or something. They have a brief meeting where the guy gives him coffee, and he makes sure they swapped out Mike's tracker. So he still got it. Okay, see you later. And then we see Mike watching them from afar, but they don't see him. He follows the man away. Not the 2 guys who got coffee originally, who he's following, but he follows the guy in his car and watches him do a pickup drop-off of some unknown items around a bridge and some tunnels. And then after a full night of tracking the man, Mike ends up at no other restaurant than Los Pollos Hermanos. But the man leaves again, leaving Mike still perplexed because he doesn't know what this is. But we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the home of the Chicken Man. The front for the meth empire. But we didn't see any, you couldn't really tell what the guy was picking up, dropping off, whether it was money or drugs or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to assume with Breaking Bad knowledge that it's meth or something, money, weapons, whatever. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter. Mike's gonna get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there were 2 things in particular that jumped out at me with this episode, and again, we'll start at the end here a little bit with the reveal of Los Pollos, because they're actually, when you're looking at, he's looking at the restaurant, that Gus's man just went inside, because at this point you can only assume that it has to be Gus's man. But you don't see anything. You just see that sort of red coloration and everything, and you're just up there left wondering, is this Pollos? This has to be Pollos, but they're not showing me anything.
If it was like Burger King or something, we would be furious.
It's like, it's such a cuckold. Come on, you're killing me here. Please, just show me the money shot. Give it to, and then they slowly pan out to show those 2 chicken brothers leaning up against each other. It's like, oh yes, give me more.
And we get some more eventually.
But
you said this episode was pretty fast-paced. We're going to have to disagree. I don't know how much more of Mike trotting around, looking at tunnels, and another guy crawling around I can take. There was 10 minutes of this guy. Maybe it was just my second watch that I knew where it was leading that it bugged me so much. But I did like the shot of the city, over those tunnels, and the shot of the guy crawling where the flashlight was shining at the camera. But again, no dialogue. He's just... Yep, he found a thing. 10 more minutes of waiting, he found another thing.
Okay, so Mike's episodes aren't quite this breakneck. I'm on the edge of my pants and my seat, because I'm going to be on the edge of both. But, I think that it was definitely sort of an emotional roller coaster. It was very emotionally gripping, and it sort of kept you wondering. There was never this... I never really was bored ever during this, because even during the Mike scenes, as we saw last time that I harped on so much, the music really drove it. The music sort of told you how to think and how Mike might have thought during these scenes. Something, I don't know how, if you because I feel like you're probably a little bit more of a trained eye for film kinds of things than I am, but the scene where when Mike is looking over at the guy, whenever there's the the little tunnels, the network of tunnels, and he's like poking through the pipes, but like it's from afar, and it looked like a miniature, like they were doing some kind of like they'd done a miniature set or something. They were doing like a fake car drive up, and then all of a sudden the guy gets out and starts walking around. You have no idea what I'm talking about, but I was sitting there. I watched it, and I watched it twice. Again, 2 times the same day. I got that both times. What is this? Turns out, actually, it's called tilt lens. I think I wrote it. I had to look it up. I was what is it called? Yes, it's a tilt shift lens. Apparently, something about it just makes it look like it's these very fake, proppy kind of thing. It's a really cool cinematic trick. I don't know exactly what it served here, other than to be visually interesting, but it was just so gripping.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah. One thing to point out at the beginning of the scene, because apparently, I work logically and backwards. Mike does crosswords and pen, and guesses men do word searches.
Just hint.
It's sort of
going to be the number one dude.
He
does crosswords and pen.
And pen, and it just sort of shows what kind of man Mike is. Mike is very much so, just that super bad. Everything about him's bad.
He knows what he's doing,
Indeed.
Which is why he's so pissed that he's so confused on what's going on this whole time, and it's why he hasn't slept in 3 months and looks so hound dogged. He don't care. He's going to finish his mission. But for now, we're back to Jimmy. Jimmy welcomes Francesca into the office for her job interview. Jimmy and Kim interview her with their desperate needs in mind. They really can't be on the same page. Jimmy almost gives her the job, to Kim's chagrin, just right there in the meeting. But eventually gives in to Jimmy's test run idea with her. And Francesca takes a couple of calls. The second one ends up being Mike, who asks Jimmy for a breakfast meeting. So, more Breaking Bad, hooray. And Francesca seems so much nicer because Saul ruined her, obviously, by the time we see her later.
Even Francesca fucking broke bad.
Yeah, she did. She's fed up by Breaking Bad. She's short with everyone. But in this one, she's all, oh, hello, I just needed help. I worked at the DMV, it's fine.
No, she didn't work at the DMV.
So whatever.
The department, the Arizona department.
It's the DMV.
But I don't know if
the non-DMV DMV that she worked at.
Well, that's a call for. I didn't pick up on it, but I was browsing Reddit and shit. What is it actually called? The ADV or something to that effect?
ABQ.
Huh?
Albuquerque.
No, because it's motor vehicles, AMV, something like that.
Something like that. It's like it was a department that held the DMV in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway.
But anyway, so it's New Mexico actually doesn't actually have a DMV. They're one of the only states that don't. But in Breaking Bad, as I was reading, Saul's like, "I will send you back to the DMV," and people are like, that doesn't exist here. That's such a... You fucked up, Vince. And so then his mastercraft way of going back and fixing things is...
He retroactively fixed his mistake, yeah.
By explaining it away.
The Insider podcast that, yep, we didn't know at the time, but now we do. So we plugged this in here to fix it and lay some backstory for Francesca.
The best part about it is it makes sense. Like it makes sense that that Saul would, do that. And I know it's the DMV to me, always, forever.
Yeah. He declared it. Vince did not make a mistake. He just had good characterization. And Kim she's getting more and more fed up with Jimmy. Just because in the interview, he's like, yeah, whatever. And she's like, this is the first person we've interviewed. What are you talking about? And he's like, whatever, test run. Come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Slipping Kimmy. Remember? She's like, fine. I have work to do. And she turns out, she sticks around for Jimmy for a long time. So apparently it works out.
Mm-hmm.
If Kim's not dead or in jail, she probably has another secretary that she tried out on her own.
Yeah, I don't know. I really want to know what's going to happen to Kim. Everything about her is just so, like, she is too important and central to Jimmy's life, and then she's just not there. Where did you go?
She could, in theory, have been just, like, in the corner of the office every time, and we do intersperse, and, like, she's not photoshopped, but digitally added in to Breaking Bad scenes later. But I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I think she's not going to be there for some reason or another.
Disappeared.
I do still think Gene comes back for her. Like, I don't see another motivation they're setting up as strong as a reason for Gene to get out of Omaha later. But that's a ways down the road, even if it happens this season. Or only in episode 2. The next scene, we get a Jimmy and Mike together scene. So rare last season, but Mike sends Jimmy into Pollo's to watch the man he's been tracking, and watch what he does with his bag. Keeps eyes on the bag, Mike says. Jimmy orders food, sits down, and watches the man, but he appears to leave without doing anything with the bag. Jimmy drops his watch into the trash can as an excuse to search it, but a manager comes up to him and gives him his watch back and digs in the trash can for it, as nothing is revealed from the search. Mike and Jimmy discuss the failure and part ways again.
I like how you just say a manager.
It's Gus. The manager's Gus. Exact. And they kept holding off the money shot again in this scene because they were focused on Jimmy, and Gus is like, I see that bright yellow shirt and tie and khakis. I know it's him, damn it. Yeah, and they left him out of focus until he comes approaches with his chicken man persona. May I help you with anything? Hello? But it's Gus.
Hello? May I help you with it?
And they have technically met. But who knows if Jimmy ever learns who Gus is.
I think both of them are intelligent. Right now, there's no way he knows because Mike doesn't know. Mike has no idea that Gus is sitting here running the whole operation. I don't know about you. How did you feel about how Jimmy acted in the restaurant?
It was fine until, like, he goes to sit down, and it was kind of weird that the shots made it seem like he was staring bullets at this guy. But the guy, I think he was further away than it seemed, and, like, we're supposed to emphasize, that was just to emphasize that Jimmy was, in fact, looking at the bag the whole time. But I don't think it would come off too weird, because it was like Jimmy said later to Mike, it was only for, like, 5 minutes. And everybody's minding their own business, so I don't think other people would have noticed. But I think my first watch, I thought, and I still think, that the way the thing happened is Gus was sweeping up, right? He's got one of those dustpans that, like, flips up, and it's like a whole container. So I think that's the only time Jimmy got his line of sight broken, so I think Gus, like, swept something out of the bag into his dustpan, and that's how he got it. Which seems weird for Gus, the Gus we know, because Gus doesn't usually touch anything on his own. Like, he has his guys do it, but I don't know how else he could have done anything. And besides, like, this is earlier in Gus' days, so he may be having to do some of the dirty work still at this point.
I say, because the Gus that we know, if he smelled a fly on the wall that was out of place, he's like, nope, nothing's going to happen today, nothing at all. He's just so guarded. And, maybe you're right, and that's something I hadn't thought of, is because at first I was like, well, the deal clearly didn't go down because Jimmy's acting like a total fucking dweeb. Like, slipping Jimmy, to me, it was so out of character. Like, this guy slipping Jimmy is just sitting here and he's, like, staring for, like, probably what is like 30, 45 seconds while this guy orders his food and he just keeps putting what I'm assuming ended up being salt packets.
I like that they have him, like, take a sip later and just make a gross face. Because he's like, oh, right.
I sat there and put... be it either sugar or salt, I kind of hope it was salt, that he was paying that little... But again, that just shows how entirely entranced he was on this guy and just how odd that was. It's like you could smell something odd from a mile away. So the Gus that we know in Breaking Bad would never have gone near that. But maybe you're right. Maybe this is before Gus gets gun shy.
To his younger... Not that much younger, a few years, but...
It's 6 years.
He doesn't have the well-oiled machine up yet, because he only separates from the cartel entirely and has his own operation ready in Breaking Bad. That's a while down the road. But he does, like, after Jimmy and Mike drive away, we get a shot of Gus just menacing near the camera, and that's all. But, so, that makes me think maybe, if he had sensed something was weird, he might not have done anything, but I think if something did happen, so now I'm thinking maybe he, didn't sweep something into his dustpan, he just, gave a signal to the guy, call it off, and have him leave without actually doing anything. So, yeah, maybe either one of those. Alright. Next up, Mike continues to stake out at Los Pollos Hermanos, still not sleeping somehow. And he sees an SUV just circle the building, and turns out to be driven by Victor, who we know. And Mike's able to track it with his monitor, so the tracking device is with this guy now. I don't really know how. I don't think we saw the handoff of that. But Mike pursues the SUV down the road in his car. And so, another Breaking Bad character, Francesca and Victor and Gus in the same episode.
Very exciting. All of his call forwards.
Yes, call forwards. Anything else in this scene? We're seeing the pursuit. It's all kind of one thing.
Yeah, that's basically it. As far as that's concerned.
Right. And then, next up, we cut to Ernie. Ernie pulls up to Kim and Jimmy's office, but's afraid to go inside, so he calls Kim. He's nervous to tell Jimmy, and by extension Kim, something. But Kim finally drags it out of him. We cut it inside to Jimmy, who sees a couple of clients out, as Kim drags him into her office for a one-on-one conversation. Kim has Jimmy give her $1 as a retainer before demanding an explanation about Chuck. Jimmy explains what he did and said to Chuck, but says it's no big deal. Then Kim tells Jimmy that there's a recording of his confession. So it is a big deal. Now, the shoes are dropping quickly for Chuck's plan.
Oh, shit. Mm-hmm.
And poor old Ernie is right in the middle.
Yeah, whenever he pulled up, I was like, ooh, wow, this is going a lot faster. Again, this is one of those things.
Quick. They could have dragged this out for half the season, but it's, yeah.
Which is sort of what I was alluding to. Again, we expected it to take a couple of episodes for these plot points to really start to develop, but we saw the fruition, the formulation of the plan happen basically halfway through the last episode, and we saw its conclusion at the very next episode at the end.
We're steamrolling towards Saul Goodman, is how I'm looking at it. We need to get through the recording arc, and then, quote-unquote jail arc, because Jimmy ain't going to jail for that long.
If at all.
If at all. Probably not at all.
Well, I mean, at the very end it showed him in orange, but... I don't know. We'll see.
That could be a dream. They don't usually do that, but who knows? Vince Gilligan's sandbox.
Again, we're sitting here talking about call forwards. I don't know if you remember it, but in Breaking Bad, there's the scene with Saul, and he's like, "Give me $1."
Yep.
All I've got's a 20. He's like, "That's fine, whatever. I'm your lawyer now."
So he learned that trick from Kim.
Yes, the same exact thing happened with Kim. And just beautiful.
Zebra. Trading his holding company or whatever. He has the clients write checks to that. That's the movie they watched. It's just so much of Jimmy's life is about Kim, and she's gone and Breaking Bad. We need to know what happens. But it might be years. Anyway, Jimmy sees it out another client before going to remove the painter's tape from the WM logo thing on their office wall. Kim joins Jimmy in the lobby to discuss Chuck further. She sees several legal holes in anything, kind of like what Howard did last week. She's just like, there's nothing really in court he can do. So what can he do outside of court? If she asks Jimmy, and Jimmy's kind of being quiet. But after Kim heads back into her office, Jimmy storms outside. And I thought it was a good callback just to last episode that Jimmy was taking the tape off using the double thumb method that Chuck just showed him. And he's doing it, and even when Kim leaves, he's doing it. But then he breaks, and he uses his method. He tears the fucking tape right off the wall.
And fucks up the paint.
Right out. Yeah, Chuck was right about that. But, character moment, he's not going to be on Chuck's side at all anymore. He's never going to tear tape the right way for the rest of his life. He storms out of there.
You say, what is it that you can do outside of court? Well, apparently that's go and bust down your brother's door and threaten to burn his house down and rip the tape up in front of him.
Yeah, like Jimmy's not even thinking on Kim's level. He's just emotional, and it's his big brother, and he's betrayed him again. But yeah, Kim's right. Like, just realize that he can't do anything and be cool. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I've got. I believe
we'll get through this. She says.
I believe I've got 2 talking points for here. The first off is that this entire scene shows what Jimmy is at his core, which is that he cares about others before he would care about himself. I mean, he just sat here and he learned the depths of Chuck's betrayal of him, and he's just sitting, he's completely dumbstruck. Like, he taped me. And you can just see how his heart broke in that moment as he's sitting there trying to reconcile it. And he still goes out, puts on the goofy fucking face, and then, all right, who's up next, young man? Let's talk about Cracker Barrel, kinds of things. And he gets through it. He just wants to make certain his clients are taken care of and that they love him. And, that's reaffirmed at the end with Francesca's like, these old people, they love you. And that no matter what, he didn't let the fact that his heart had just been smashed to millions of pieces, it didn't get in the way of the fact that he has clients that he cares about. And, I think that's really telling about what Saul is and who Saul is.
Or at least who Jimmy is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
And then, but yeah, that's a good point that you slipping up on the name. Because Saul, he loses Chuck some way. He's going to lose Chuck some way, whether they just aren't talking or they're still fighting. I doubt he has a healthy relationship with his alive brother in Breaking Bad. Something has to happen. So something scarred him, and that's why he doesn't have this emotional tie anymore. He's trying not, he just had a horrible breakup, but with a family member. And so it seems like maybe Saul's kind of more clowny, even more Saul-like than Jimmy ever could be because of Chuck.
I mean, Chuck made Saul, ultimately.
Chuck made Saul.
I think honestly...
If you tell Chuck that, he'd be horrified, I would think.
That is an excellent point.
Champ with a machine gun.
Yeah, but you have to think about it. Certainly he has to realize, well, no, probably in his hubris he doesn't, because he thinks he's this all-powerful, all-knowing being when it comes to Jimmy's life, but...
Yeah, and you'd never be able to do this, but if somehow you were able to go back and be like, hey, Chuck, let's lay it out. This is your fault that Saul Goodman and Esquire exists.
Mm-hmm.
And if he could realize it, he probably would never accept it, but if he did, he'd be like, oh my God.
What have I done?
What have I done? I've created a monster.
Because he did. Everything about this. And
he's got a huge ego, and he's a good sacred law lawyer and all that.
Exactly.
Did you have another one for this scene?
No, it sort of gets wrapped up in the next one as I'm sitting here reading it.
Alright, next up, Mike continues driving to the middle of nowhere, following his tracking monitor. Well, I say middle of nowhere. It's not like he's not in the desert on a dirt road or anything. It's just a long stretch of paved road, but no one seems to be around. He eventually gets out and finds a cell phone on top of a gas cap in the middle of the road, on the median line.
Mm-hmm.
And the cell phone rings. Mike answers it with, yeah, what? Blah.
Yeah.
His Mike-ish tone. And then we cut away. And so Gus knows, again, he's gotten ahead of Mike again.
Indeed.
And I would think that the cell phone being in the middle of the road and the gas cap there, it's not just from a dramatic effect, it also implies that someone can see Mike right then.
Because
it's just going to get run over.
Exactly.
Just leave it there.
Yeah, there are a lot of moments to be had here. But here we have, I believe, the beginning of the Gus-Mike relationship, for better or worse. But it was a very dramatic way to do it. And
why do you think Gus would reach out to this guy?
Because he probably knows...
Just because he sees that he's smart?
He knows that Mike knows that something's up. He just doesn't know entirely quite what. He probably, to a certain degree, has then put out feelers and knows kind of who Mike is.
I think he'd rather just, offer Mike a job than risk him blowing his operation up.
Exactly.
Or he could just say, hey, work for me or I'll kill you. But I don't think that's Gus's style. Out front, anyway.
Best the enemy that you know than the enemy you don't.
And he knows he tried to kill Hector.
Probably. No, yes, actually, it does. So then...
Because he had a dude. Well, strongly implied that he had a dude go give the don't note on his windshield.
Yeah, they wouldn't know where he was at if it weren't for the tracking device. Gus, I think, knows a whole lot about Mike, and this is just his final, like, you know what? You tracked me down. You found me. Good job. Here's a job offer.
Now you're going to be my security, quote-unquote security, for all these restaurants.
The cleaner.
The cleaner. And he's the go-between between Gus and Saul, and hilarity ensues. Alright. Okay, final scene here. And it's a doozy. Howard runs very stupidly around Chuck's neighborhood to Chuck's back door. And Chuck has him hide his phone and keys in, I think, a bird's nest in a tree, because he doesn't pass the mailbox before he comes inside. The PI is still there, or there again, we don't really know. But it's during the day now. Howard complains about the cost of these around-the-clock investigators. That's how we find out that it was an investigator from earlier. Jimmy arrives in a fury as they're talking about it and breaks down the door. Then he begins looking for the tape, with Howard and the PI hiding behind the bookcase and behind the other wall. Jimmy threatens to burn the house down, among a lot of other things, and Howard and the PI step out, let Jimmy know they're there, and then Chuck asks them both, "Are you witnesses to this?" They both say yes, and they back out. The camera backs out, and Jimmy's just there perplexed, and the other three are all smug and victory pose, basically. And episode. And what an episode. Ugh. Poor Jimmy.
Do you like to have your thoughts said?
Or? Poor Jimmy. And Chuck, you piece of shit. And at the same time, like Jimmy fucked Chuck over just as hard earlier.
Yeah.
We just liked Jimmy a lot better. Like, I kept thinking, like, I'm a big Chuck hater, and I want bad things to happen. Except because Jimmy likes him. I don't really, because that would make Jimmy suffer. But anyway, no, that's not what I was trying to say. But I wonder if Chuck was the one who had the, like, outgoing, clowny, likable personality, and Jimmy was more of the stuffed shirt, just like professional. Like, if you switch those qualities but left their ethics exactly as they are, wouldn't we hate Jimmy and like Chuck? Like, it's not about really morality anymore. It's about who we like and who we've seen and who we spent time with. And I bet a lot of us are like that in real life, that we look by a lot of bad qualities because we like another person. Certainly in, like, romantic relationships, but even, like, a friend or just some con man like Jimmy, where, like, if the same conny qualities are in someone like Chuck, who's not as personable, we just say, get away from me, I don't like you, there's no reason. Just stick around. So
no, I agree.
It's really good characters.
Yeah,
and
like
good writing.
Like him or not, Chuck is well written. He is interesting. He is flawed.
Is really good.
He is. As far as discussing sort of the meat of the scene, one of the most beautiful parts of the scene to me was he's sitting
bird run.
Besides,
like a fucking idiot. Like, I laughed for 5 minutes after that. Sorry, go on.
And along the lines of the bird run, as far as all of that's concerned, how awkward it was that he snuck around, and there's probably an old man and woman like sitting in their house going, "What is that, man?"
Because that's a real house in a real neighborhood.
Yeah.
And on the Insider podcast, Vince Gilligan said, like, when they first were like blocking out the scene, Patrick Fabian, who plays Howard, he could just like vault over it, ease no problem, and dart up. And he's just like, "Nah, I need you to act like you can't really do this." And he nailed it.
Yeah,
he doesn't even know how to run.
Yeah, I imagine
his knit tie on Indigo Blue.
That tie was something else. I want his tie. I want his tie very much.
He always wears those knit ties.
But I love the color. It was very vibrant. It's something I would love to wear to work.
And Indigo.
But I just imagine like Chuck's next door neighbors just like peeping out the window through a curtain. "What is that young man doing?" "Oh, Henry, that's just one of Chuck's friends. They're all curious lots over there." These sort of things. Dizzy sits there and tries awkwardly to vault over. But one of the most telling bits of the scene was when Howard is talking with Chuck. He's like, I don't think this is going to work. We've been at it for days. This isn't ever going to pan out. Maybe we should consider not having a PI during the day. And then, so they're making plans. Maybe just have the PI there at night. And Howard's like, are you certain that this is even worth it? And Chuck's like, I know my brother. He's going to try and break in at night. And then, Chuck! Let me in, Chuck!
And if Ernie or Jimmy had just waited for like another day,
mm-hmm.
then it would have been fine. And we don't really have an arc,
mm-hmm.
but still.
But no, just like that he was so confident. Like, I know who my brother is. And then he does the exact opposite of what he's telling Howard is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, some details change. Like, he's probably going to be super sneaky and slip in Jimmy, right? He's going to sneak in at night. And he does break in. He wants the tape, but he has a
mm-hmm.
different emotional reaction. He takes the same actions, but just is more angry than Chuck would have thought. He thought he was just going to try and save his own skin and, like, think about it logically, but then, no, he just feels betrayed by his brother.
I made a point about this. So I think with this is, and I saw this on Reddit and I loved it, and so I sort of took it and expanded it a little bit because it's basically just this first sentence here, first two sentences, which is the plot of this episode largely revolves around, quote, Jimmy underestimates how much Chuck despises Jimmy, and Chuck underestimates how much Jimmy loves Chuck. And so I really liked that, but I started thinking about what exactly does that mean in the instance of this particular scene, and it's that Chuck sat there and he expected Jimmy to break in and try and steal it because he was going to be afraid, because he didn't want to get in trouble, didn't want to go to jail, but ultimately Jimmy breaks down the door, breaks into the house. He doesn't actually give three shits about the contents of the tape. Jimmy cares that the tape exists. That his brother sat there and willingly threw away their family. This is something that's supposed to mean a whole lot to him, and he's just like, no, fuck this.
Do you think without Kim's help, Jimmy would have figured out that Chuck couldn't actually do anything with this in court?
I think that if Jimmy sort of figured out that the tape existed through other means besides just being told, hey, by the way, this exists, because if he's...
Like if Ernie had told Jimmy... And would Jimmy have freaked out?
He would have done the exact same thing, I think.
Because I'm thinking, like, for Chuck's thinking, Jimmy has to think that he could do something in court with it. Because if Jimmy just comes to conclusion on his own, and doesn't, like, have the anger thing that Chuck didn't expect, then he has to just, maybe Jimmy just leaves the tape alone.
Yeah, because it's, and again, I think it's, if Jimmy had sort of found out about it on his own, had sort of been able to come to terms with it, because he would just sort of, he'd grow to suspect, and then all of a sudden he'd have his proof, and it's like, well, at this point in time, I've sat there, I've thought through it, I've thought through all the alternatives, and no, it's probably not going to end up being like this. But the fact that it was presented like that, of course, he went and he got a little emotional, because again, like, his big brother, whom he loves dearly, betrayed him in probably one of the worst ways.
Yeah, one of my points here was... one of my three standouts was that Jimmy's always kind of been cool under pressure. Like, we've seen him nervous. I think of when he was being held up by Tuco. But usually his reaction when he's like stressed or emotional or nervous is to fall back on his gift of gab. Like, he won't shut up. He talks his way out of danger, or just into cons, getting what he wants, whatever. But in this scene, we see just raw emotion. Like, he can't even think of what to say next. Like, he's just, I'm gonna burn this house to the ground, I hate you, I can't believe it, blah blah blah. And just, he's yelling, he's not talking, he's not thinking, he's not conning, and just, he really reveals how much he loved his brother, even after he screwed him over the first few times, over like much of his adult life, really. And then this is just what took the cake.
I think, honestly, that might be what ends up liberating Jimmy from all of this. Because if you notice, whenever, Howard and the PI turns the corner, they're not like, ha, gotcha. It's Howard turns the corner, it's like, whoa, Jimmy, step back, calm down. Because, I think that Howard in this, probably in his better interests, wants Jimmy to, go on and continue being his own thing. But, maybe not have the McGill name and yada yada blah blah blah, because he goes in and not trying to like goad him into like securing his fate, but rather, don't do any more damage. What's been done? Like you're sitting here, you're proving that you're in not a stable state of mind.
Get out of here.
That you're behaving emotionally. This isn't something that's calculated. Because if, like, for instance, if he had broken in the middle of the night, then there would have been some degree of premeditation. Versus just being presented with information and immediately acting upon it. He might be able to get the whole thing dismissed. He might be, and maybe I think Howard is probably, he might go to bat for him. He might sort of help Jimmy out a little bit here, but I don't think that I don't think that he's going to be like his big supporter. But I think that Howard's interests align with Jimmy being free, but also no longer connected to Chuck.
I think he may well bring that point to Chuck and say, hey, we should just lay off now. You got him. But Chuck will be adamant to be like, nope, if he needs this, he needs to be in jail, and blah, blah. And Howard is always like Chuck's puppy dog because he kind of owns the firm. And he can, if he backs out, then the firm's under, and Howard doesn't have what it takes and all that stuff. So he has to defer to Chuck. Even though he'll still be like, this is stupid. Y'all need to fight your own battles outside of all this conniving.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think this might be sort of a power play. If he can get Chuck to go away, but also not
Chuck to go away or Jimmy?
No, make Chuck go away. Okay, I don't think Howard. If I'm a practical man and I'm sitting here and I'm running a business, Chuck is I want Chuck less than I want Jimmy, because this is a guy that's been in the public eye multiple times for being a train wreck. He's been in, he is, this odd guy that people in his neighborhood and the community knows that he lives, and he, is afraid of electricity and all this. He walks around in, space blanket lined clothing, and he's just not someone you want associated with a nice, prim and proper firm. And if you're a guy like Howard and you're trying to run the firm, the last thing that you want is that associated with it, but not only associated with it, but being a founder, someone who is still actively working with the firm. And I think that Howard really wants this liability to go away. I'm not saying kill him, but, have him...
You're not saying not kill him.
No, I'm saying have him committed, because it was... The one thing about, if you remember, the one thing about committing Chuck is that Jimmy wants to liquidate his shares. And if Jimmy liquidates his shares, then that's when all hell breaks loose with the firm, as far as like the money is concerned, because that's the last thing. Howard tries very desperately to convince Jimmy, please don't do that. Please, please. And if he can get it so that Jimmy doesn't give a flying fuck about what's going on with Chuck, and get it to so that somehow, I don't know how he would do it, but say that get Chuck committed, well then Chuck is gone. But Jimmy doesn't care about his shares because Chuck doesn't want to sell his shares. So then the shares sort of stay there. He gets to take over control or more control of the law firm, and he sort of gets what he wants. And then,
That's a fair point.
Just sort of does away with, let Jimmy either take care of himself his own way, or maybe it'll end up being that Howard tells him, you're no longer allowed to practice law under this name, and then this is where Saul was born. Maybe. I don't know. I think that technically, though, Saul Goodman was born at the end of the scene, that just sort of despondent, heartbroken, my life is in shambles, my brother is not even remotely close to whom I thought he was. Like, he was already a piece of shit, but, he's that much of a piece of shit. I think that, Saul Goodman was born at the end of this episode. Saul Goodman, the lawyer.
I still think Howard just has this weird, loyalty to Chuck. Just like a dad or something. But I could see all that happening still. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he'll be so quick to throw Chuck under the bus. Who knows? Chuck's got to go at some point soon. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Who knows? I can't wait for next week.
We'll probably see it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see it.
My other two standouts, I'll go through these real quick. My last week was no Gus. Mm-hmm. This week is Gus. We have Gus, although brief. We see him be his weird chicken man persona, unassuming manager, sweeping the floor. then a few minutes later, see him just menace at the camera. It's like, there he is. There's the box cutter man. And really excited to see Mike go, like, blend in with Gus and, like, see more character development from this show perspective for, like, new Better Call Saul watchers, I guess. But it'll be exciting for us. And give Mike more to do. Because my other one is Silent Mike Continued. Not sure how many scenes of drawn out following with no talking, of just picking up bags and moving them, I can take. Like, I get plot-wise it was important to show that took a long time, but it's 2 episodes of pistachio eating, driving around and stuff, so it looks like next time Mike will be sitting down with Gus or Gus's people and getting involved with that, so that's exciting.
Let's see. My top 3, I actually sort of forgot to eloquate, but I've sort of talked about my high points of this episode. I would say that my number 1 high point of the episode was how they treated Gus. Because we both knew that Gus was going to be here, just the preview from last week. But the fact that they treated him like a horror film might treat a monster. Because you see, he is always either just off screen or he's blurry, but you know exactly, like, if you are watching a scary film, Harry
Harry Potter and the Scary Monsters.
But if you are watching a scary film and you know there's a monster in the background, it's obscured or the focus isn't on it, so you know it's a monster. You know that whatever it is isn't good. You know exactly what it is, just not exactly what shape it might take. Much the same was done here with Gus. You just watch from the corner slowly this, as you said, this lithe form and yellow shirt, and he sort of got that close cropped hair, and just honestly to me it was, because it could have been anyone, but the way that his arms move. Gus moves his arms in such a, it's almost, he reminds me of a spider, just because he's very, just extremely unsettling to watch him move. And especially his arms, like just the way he reached out to like grab something off the top of a trash can or something. I was like, that is Gus. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed that they even showed his face at all. I would have much rather, like, they had him moving around the background and then just go off screen.
And then, people would be so pissed.
But that would have been beautiful. I would have loved it so much. It would have been probably the highlight of the season if that was how they first introduced Gus as a character in Better Call Saul, was a quick on and then off. And then that's all it was. But still, as such, he was out of focus for the majority of that shot, and it was beautiful. And then there he was. And then, again, the next time that you see him, he's just all of a sudden, "May I help you, sir?" And as Jimmy is sitting there, rifling through the trash, all that, it's a scary moment for him. He has to think really quick, yank off his wash. And then the third and final time that we see Gus is he's just standing there menacing. It's like, everything about this guy is so villainous. He's so scary. Like, without being like a particularly scary looking man, you can just tell this dude is, he means business.
And it's really funny. Like, if you listen to commentaries on Breaking Bad or watch interviews, or listen to the Insider podcast or anything like that, and you hear Jonathan Banks or John Callery Esposito, who plays Gus. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them are anything like the crazy, scary characters they play. Like, they're all just like goofy and joking around and nice, and it just seems really weird and disparate, but it just means they're really good actors. Indeed.
My second favorite scene, standout scene, was definitely the introduction of Francesca. She was perfect. I loved the interview because, again, it showed this juxtaposition between, how the two of them are going in, they're treating this interview, and like Jimmy's all gung ho, but Kim is like not quite so much. But and I had forgot to mention this. Just a little quick, doesn't even say a whole lot, it's just one off line, is Jimmy sitting there and he's putting the tape up, he is painted. And he's like, "Does this look straight to you?" And she's like, the M looks a little bit crooked.
The M's a little crooked.
It's like, play on words. I see what you did there, Vince. But no, it was really nice, though. It's like, everything about this episode was really calculated. I feel like there wasn't anything that was particularly out of place. I didn't watch a scene, and this is my third highlight. Everything about this episode, again, like I said, it's one of my favorite of the 22 episodes that have aired so far, but it was very calculated, everything in its place. I didn't sit here wondering, why am I watching this? Like, I get it, this probably serves some kind of point, but it's like, really? Like, did this need to happen? I know you weren't particularly fond of the Mike scenes, but I even loved the Mike scenes because I thought that it just further perplexed Mike what was going on. And it's like, everything served a purpose. Everything was clean. Everything, I feel like about half the episode harkened forward to Breaking Bad kinds of things. It's like, it's perfect. It was such a good episode. And y'all can burn me at the stake if I say the same thing next week. And like, this episode was even better than last. The only time that I've only ever said...
That happens? Don't you hope that happens?
I do hope that happens. The only time that it has ever happened... with me back-to-back episodes, one saying, like, oh my god, how can anything be better than this? And then the next episode
was better.
Trumps that. Was the most recent season of Game of Thrones. Season 9, really great. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Episode 9?
Episode 9 of this most past most recent...
Season 9.
Oh, whoops.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we will never get there.
It shouldn't exist.
It won't exist, will it?
I mean...
No, it won't exist.
5 years from now... Just like HBO's somehow not making any money. They're just like, all right, bring back Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But this most previous season, season 6, episode 9, I watched it and I was like, holy fuck, it's such a good episode. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. Other than to say that it really was the most intense medieval battle that was ever on screen. It was the most realistic. That is what it gets touted for, and I believe it. It was so good. And then, with most Game of Thrones kinds of things, it seems like the 9th episode is, super strong and really direct, and everything we want happens now. And dragons! And we got no dragons, I don't think, in episode 9, but it was like everything we wanted out of it. And so then episode 10 is usually like, you just kind of wrap up some loose strings, a thing or two of interest might happen, that's a little bit. But then season 10's like off at a breakneck speed, you get dragons, and it's just, holy fuck! And it just kept on going. Everything, just back to back, to back to back to back. Everything was just, and I hope and hope and hope that this happens next week with Better Call Saul.
There are dragons in that show? Spoiler alert.
Yeah, no, dragons are going to come out of Albuquerque, they're going to sit there, and they're going to get high on meth, and, you know, it's going to be this really big thing, and that's how Gus is going to set up his drug empire, because it's going to be built on the back of dragons. It's going to be a 3-headed chicken on his standard, and they're going to fly across the skies of rural Western America.
We're blending shows. I think it's time to wrap. If you guys want to help us out, send us some feedback at Aaron@screentower.com and at Twitter @MaybeTextJimmy. Those are our feedback channels at the moment. Help us out. Give us some more material. Tell us what you guys want us to talk about. Tell us what you liked, what your standouts were, all that good stuff.
We should, in the next week-ish, maybe, because we should apologize. We had sort of mentioned that these would be coming out on like the Wednesday after it.
Some technical difficulties from first-time podcasters who don't know how to do the things.
Yeah, so everything sort of, the shit hit the fan, and then the shit that hit the fan got sucked back into the fan, so it hit it twice, and it was just, because we ended up not being able to record on Wednesday, and then once we finally did record this past Sunday, we couldn't even get it on the site, and it's just been a couple issues. To help mitigate this, we'll sort of be on top of things a little bit more often. I think we got a SoundCloud page up.
We'll get better as we go.
But here in the next week or so, you should hopefully be able to see a YouTube channel pop up.
Yes,
I don't know what it'll be under, because it's sort of going to be my general purpose YouTube channel for things that I might be doing outside of this, but we'll certainly have a playlist going there.
Yep, and we'll let you know what it's called.
Indeed.
Listen on there.
Indeed. So do you have anything that you would like to sort of cap off the...
I can't wait till next Monday.
I know, right?
Let's go.
Indeed.
I don't think they're skipping. I'll have to look that up. I don't think they're skipping any weeks.
They better not. Gee, it's only 10 episodes.
Well, I don't know. Some shows do that to hold off the suspense. Anyway, I don't have anything else on this one.
No, I don't. Other than I'm right there with you. It's like, oh my god, it's so far away. Monday.
All right. We'll see you next week. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Cody.